I gotta check mine.
Hey, and welcome back, everybody, to Florida West Coast Fishing Report. Captain George and me, Captain Sergio, and we're ready to talk fishing today. And
And
right, George,
yes, sir. We got Donald wishing us good evening. How you doing, Donald? Always
and
a
we,
faithful watcher.
and we got
And
Rolando Alonso. He's watching too, so he's on board, and he's the Spanish heavy-duty Cuban fisherman from Gandy Bridge, and actually he holds the title, and this is a rare title. He is one of the best catfish fishermen under you can find. There's no question about it. He is fantastic at that. And it was raining. I just came out of my house to go to this studio, and it's raining.
Yeah, it came through a little while ago at my house also again.
And it was windy again.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be windy the next couple of days.
Oh Jesus!
And
I'm so tired of this.
Rolando Alonso says catfish master.
Oh yeah, he is, and he catches the big ones.
I tell you what, we'll have to keep that in mind because they used to have. Do you remember that catfish tournament they used to have?
Father's Day.
The Father's Day catfish tournament, and I remember it was bad luck for me. I remember the first time me and my brother entered it. I think we were 18 years old, and we pulled away from the dock. The motor conked out on the boat, and that was it. It wouldn't start again, so we ended up trolling motoring all around the boat ramp trying to catch a catfish.
And all they had to do is go to the marina. There's plenty of them right where you clean the fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we got Luke is on.
Yep, Luke is on. How you doing, Luke?
Hey man. And did you get the magazines yet? Onshore, offshore?
Not yet. I'm surprised. I haven't got them yet.
He said they were going to get here tomorrow, I think, because I've been waiting on them tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yeah. I'm usually when I get them, it's a good 3 to 4 days into the month, but 5 days is usually the most. But so I don't know. You're already almost missing a week.
Well, when I got the Tampa Fishing Outfitters the other day, they hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
We're going to be there the next day. Well, I couldn't go back and get them, so he mailed them to me. But one of the things that the water quality, George, you and I agree, is about as clean as you think you're in the Keys.
It's almost too clean because, I mean, literally I was in like 8-10 feet of water the other day, and the trout were moving away from me because they could see me coming.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I know they can see me. I went to a bunch of docks. Some of the docks, they were sterile. I mean, there was nothing.
Yeah.
In one dock, I saw one mango snapper come from behind the dock, and he shot me a bird. I say, you ain't getting me, bro. I'm the only guy here.
I tell you what, a lot of times if I got a later pickup, I'll go out and scout around for an hour before I pick my clients up just to see if there's anything happening at a particular spot. And I went on to a lot of the docks that I fish this time of year, and there were. I don't know if it's because it got colder this year, maybe than normal, but they were really, a lot of them were empty. I mean, I found fish, but a lot of the spots were void of fish. And what was funny was one of the docks we were fishing, and sure enough, the dolphin were on us. You know, it's almost like, hey, this is the dock that's got fish on it, so we're going to hang out here. And I tried, like we were fishing one dock where the sheep's head were, and then the dock behind us had no sheep's head on it, which is amazing that it's like that.
Well, I went down one area and looked at 5 or 6 docks in a row. And I mean, I could see down 6, 7, 8 feet, just as clean as nothing, not even a pinfish. Then there's a couple of docks I know have structure. And I went to one of them that has a bunch of structure. We saw maybe 2 or 3 little pinfish, and it might have been a small mangrove snapper. Went to another dock, and we saw some sheep's head, but they were little. They're 8, 10 inch, and maybe 8 or 10 of them. And we fished them, and we tried everything. We got 2 sea bass, a couple of small sheephead, but it's like normally when you could pull up to these docks this time of the year, and there'd be a whole bunch of them, and you could always see a couple of those real big ones eating the barnacles.
Right.
And they just weren't there. I don't know.
Now, what was funny was most of the sheep's head we caught were actually nice, decent-sized keepers, but one of them was just undersized, or it was like right there. But either way, I wasn't going to keep it. But I didn't want the dolphin to get it. And that dolphin was like swimming around the boat, sticking his head up, like looking and waiting. And he was waiting for us. When we reeled this fish in, he was right. I mean, we netted it and the dolphin was right behind it. And so when I unhooked it, I was like, all right, I'm going to throw this fish right under the dock that was behind us, not to wreck our spot, but try to get him next to some pylons so that the dolphin wouldn't have a chance to grab him right away. And I could not, I should have videoed it. That's what I should have did. That sheep's head went, there was like 3 pylons together. It went right to that one. The dolphin came right in and literally was going around the pylons and chasing the sheep's head. And the sheep's head kept going around. And then he was actually wedging his nose, the dolphin, between 2 pylons to try and get him through the pylons.
Yeah, something.
And the sheep's head survived. He was smart enough to keep on the outside, and he never let the dolphin
You know what that tells you? That they're not eating. There's no food. Because if they're doing that much, they're hungry.
Well, like I'm saying, a lot of the docks, it's only select few. Like I've got a different area that I went to. The one dock, excuse me, has tremendous rubble underneath this middle of this dock, and it usually always holds sheep's head and mangrove snapper. And it was completely empty. There was nothing there except for glass minnows. That was about the only thing that was there. And and then I moved down. I have got a couple other docks. There are a few docks down, and there were sheep's head on that one. So I don't know. The abundance is not there.
Talking to some of the captains, though, it seems like our area is the one that's being affected the most for some reason. Now, maybe anybody that's out there that's been watching, because I know in Tarpon, there's we've been up there fishing, doing shows, and and there seems to be a lot of fish. But last week I went out to my rock pile that always had and you could see them on my depth finder. There was a bunch of sheephead sitting down there in about 14 feet of water, but they wouldn't bite. I had sand fleas. I had dead shrimp. I had live shrimp. I tried everything.
Yeah, you definitely right now. What I'm finding though is you definitely got to get some fiddler crabs. Right now they are being so finicky. I haven't caught but maybe 2 sheep's head on shrimp in the last month. They are not going for it for whatever reason. And then the one area I was fishing, because that water is so clear, I had to go all the way down the 10-pound leader and a number 1 hook to get the bite, which is crazy. I never have to do that. That's totally unusual. But I was out the other day, and like you're saying, I have not seen the water this clear. I mean, we always get clearer water in the wintertime because the algae and stuff dies off. And that's another thing. The algae may have died off, but we've got some growth, like vine-like growth that is real tall, 5-6 feet tall, floating, that really, with the cold water we've been having, it should be dead. It shouldn't be like that.
No, and I'm replying to Bucky.
What's up, Bucky and Jim? But even Bucky, up in his area, he's saying he's not seeing the quantity of fish he should be seeing in the creeks and creek mouths and stuff like that. And it's the same thing. I fished some areas that I went through just to check it out. And one area we talked about it, no fish. I saw maybe 4 or 5 pinfish, and that was it. And that could be part of the problem. If there's no bait there to support the fish aren't going to be there.
It just seems funny because we go to Tarpon, we go other places, and there's fish.
It's typical, it's typical fishing.
And over here should be what you and I have been doing. You hit the docks, you hit the deep water canals,
right?
And you hit the offshore rocks in the bay, any place.
Yeah. Now
where I was at, they were there.
Right.
My sounder showed the sheephead on the bottom and plenty of them.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't bite. And I got like 12 spots marked within a football field.
Right.
And each one has got big boulders and stuff. And you could see it. I mean, I get up there and hit that trolling motor and boom. And talking about trolling motors, let me tell you, my God, I love that move from Power Pole.
Right.
That thing is so quiet and it has so much power that it's barely running. And it wasn't the calmest last Thursday. It got a little choppy out there in the middle of the open water in the bay. And that thing just never just kept me right on there, just quiet as can be.
Right.
Make any noise. You don't even know it's running.
Yeah, you can't beat that. I mean, that's a nice feature for sure. And I mean, they put the time in before they put that thing out. You know, they had a few years of development.
Like 4 years or something.
Yeah.
They were testing that and make sure that it was good. And they
Yep.
got rid of the bugs. They didn't put it out and then say, well, oh, we got a bug. Let's fix it.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Most stuff, the first year it comes out, you don't want to buy it. Most things. But PowerPole, they've got a reputation to uphold, and they do. You know, they're a great company when it comes to that.
So and
I'll tell
thing
you.
too is what they're selling now. I noticed. I don't know about where you're buying it, but usually when I buy medium, I get in mediums and sometimes decent mediums.
Right.
And this last week, the mediums weren't medium.
I usually same thing. My guys, where I get it from, usually they always treat me right, and they give me mediums, so maybe a little bit above average, above the mediums. And this last trip, I had a little bit of mix. There was mediums, and then there was some that were just a little bit smaller than what I usually get. So it must have been the delivery they're getting right now.
It could be that cold weather.
The cold weather,
the shrimping, yeah.
And they're buried down a little bit, so that could be hurting it. I'll tell you what, though, I did. I checked. I got some areas that I checked a bunch of my trout areas because it's that time of year. We should be able to be catching trout like crazy, and I checked. Pretty far down, like not quite Pinellas Point to above Gandy, and I checked a bunch of my different spots. A lot of them were void of trout, and then I found 3 of my spots. I tell you, the one spot had about 100 trout laying in it, so it was good to see. And they were all decent, like 15 to 19, maybe even 20-inch trout, and so it was good to see an actual live school of trout out there. But there's been some better redfish around, on and off. People are getting them. I mean, it ain't big schools, but people are getting some nice ones in that 25 to 32-inch range. So I'm thinking with seeing that already, that March is going to be phenomenal, I think.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I think March is going to turn on this year, and hopefully we'll have a great spring.
I hope so, because our books are filled up in March already. So
I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, whoa, I got a lot of charters coming up and I really want them to be good.
Yeah. And I'm booked up pretty solid in February right now. And, I'm not going to lie that the fish have been challenging lately, and you've really had to work. I mean, we're getting a decent amount of fish, but it's sheepshead, redfish. The redfish I'm getting is anywhere from like 16 to about 19-inch reds is about where I'm at. But they saved the day. I mean, my last trip, we were fishing the one side for a dock where the reds were, and they weren't biting real fast. The trip before that, it was as soon as you got a bait in, you were catching a red, and we got about 12 that time. This last trip, they weren't biting fast, so we ended up putting some lines out with shrimp because that's what we're getting them on right now. And then on the other side of the boat, we were fishing the little P&Vs by Saltwater Assassin, and it was just loaded with ladyfish. So they were having a blast catching ladyfish, which kept them busy one after another. I was using the D-hooker like crazy. And then all of a sudden, you'd see the rod tip get a tap, and they would stop fishing that, run over there, and go catch a couple redfish, and then go back to doing what they were doing. So it was good. It kept the trip busy. But, we've had to work. I mean, everybody's saying it right now, at least in our area, that you're not going to pull up to one spot and catch 30 or 40 fish. It just ain't happening right now.
So I just can't put my finger on it though, and I talked to some of the other captains. It's just weird. The bite is weird. It's not.
It's just not normal.
The bay, I can set my time. I know where I'm going to go.
Yep.
I know where the fish are usually. They're always in that there. Maybe not this, but maybe just. And now you go and. Like I said, Thursday and Friday, the water was just so clean that, I mean, you could see everything down to 12 feet of water. So it's not like, well, when you look at a dock and you don't see a fish, why
stop? Yeah. Why stop? Exactly.
Right.
And I'm same situation like you're saying. So that's why, like I said, on my later pickups, because of these tides, I've been picking up anywhere from like sometimes 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30 even. And so that gives me time in the morning, and I'll run around. And I've been actually going back and exploring some of the older docks I used to fish that I haven't fished in a while, and that's paying off for me. But you shouldn't have to work that hard. You shouldn't have to work that hard right now.
And I said, the one dock I found, it had about 8 or 10 sheephead that I could see, and we got 2 sea bass. But you could see, like, you would throw the bait to the shrimp or the dead shrimp or the sand flea, and they would come running at it. Then they kind of stop and look at it and say,
"Yep,
nah."
Well, that's where I was testing the waters out when I was seeing that. Then I was taking either, because I did have some sand fleas too, taking that sand flea or whatever and just throwing it in the water with no hook on it. And I'd see them rush up, and then they would eat it. So that's where that day, when I was seeing that, I went all the way down to a 10-pound leader and a number 1 hook. And that did the trick for me. But I'm that finicky this year.
Jeez.
Normally, if you throw a fiddler crab down there, it don't matter what size leader, they're going to nail it. And that's not the case this year.
Oh, we got Captain Chris Yates just came on board. Hey, Chris, what's going on?
Hey, bud, how you doing? Appreciate you watching.
What are you catching? If it's in the bay, tell me you're catching some fish, will you? Charlie Holly said, did good on Friday. Lots of silver, speckled trout, and a few reds. That's good. Glad to hear that. That's another one. He found the silver trout. I looked for silver trout last week. I went to the power plant, the deep channel. I couldn't find them.
I found some in a canal that I usually catch them at, because I have one client. It's funny. The husband loves them. The wife don't care for him. So he always wants, let's go for the silver trout. She's like, I don't want to go for silver trout. So they argue on what they're going to go fish for. But I found some in this canal, but that canal, usually you go in there, and once you find them, like typical, it's one after another. And even that's not been as good as used to be. Donald saying going out Saturday to Fort DeSoto, finally for an outing. Well, good luck, Donald. I hope you have some good luck down there. There's been last time I went down there, I did get into some good trout. I almost went down there again just because of the way things have been. So let us know how you do.
Yeah. And then Jim Pace said he went offshore Friday, super calm.
Nice.
Limited out on hogs and about 50 feet. That's good to hear that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Now I forget, what is the limit on hogs? I don't even know right now.
It went up in the size. Is it?
Maybe Jim can let us know.
What's the limit on hogs?
Because I haven't kept up with that. It's not like I go out for hogs all the time.
I got it here. Since I don't go, I don't really. Smaller trout in the grass flat. Sheepheads have been steady on structures, seawalls, mainly smaller reds. Yeah.
That's about what I've been doing, Chris.
Five hogfish per person.
What's the size on those, Jim?
Let's see if I see it here.
But Chris, that's about what I've been doing. The sheep's head and some trout with some smaller reds. That's been keeping my charters going. 14 inches to the fork, he says. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was definitely nice out there. It was. We haven't seen calm winds like that in a while.
But Thursday it started off windy, then it calmed down, and then it got windy again.
Right.
Hogs and the Gulf. Yep.
So
open year round, but that's not true. They closed it last year, didn't they? They had closed it for a while.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It says Atlantic. It says open May 1st through October 31st, but the Gulf it says is the Gulf is 14 inches to the fork, and the Atlantic is 16.
Charlie says Marine Quest this Saturday at FWRI in St. Pete. Good event for the kids. Yeah, I'm actually running a double on Saturday, so I will be busy. But yeah, we'll get that out there. Keep it up. Let's see. He said he got his keepers in 80 feet on Friday.
Okay. I thought he said he was in 50 feet away.
No, that's Captain Chris.
Oh, okay.
Captain Chris.
Okay. All right.
But now, I don't know, just a tip. I don't know if people do this or not, but it's just a tip I want to give away. When you're got clients on the boat or friends or whoever, and they always want to put sunblock on. When they get done putting the sunblock on, give them a wet towel and a dry towel. This way they can wipe their palms off and get that scent off the palms for two reasons. One, you don't want the fishing pole slipping out of their hand. But number two is if they got sunblock and they touch the rod, and then you touch the rod, then you touch the bait, and now that bait smells like sunblock, it can throw the bite off on you a little bit. So I always make sure, I have them clean their hands after they put sunblock on. Just get that scent.
And don't let anybody use bullfrog.
Oh, bullfrog's bad.
What is it in bullfrog that
There's
stains your
ingredient in there? Same thing with spray on sunblock. It has in the aerosol, whatever chemical that is, that carrier will yellow your boat, and bullfrog must have something similar to it.
Makes it pinkish.
Yeah, you get like a pinkish, and then like with the spray on, you get like an orangish type of.
Yeah, and then you got to clean the heck out of it. It'll come off the fiberglass, but a lot of times with some of these fabrics, you have a hard time trying to get it off.
I'll tell you what, the spray, it soaks into the fiberglass, and it's hard to get out. A lot of times the sun does the best job on that. Hey, Jessica tuned in. How you doing, Jessica?
And she was out. She was fishing with Pam a couple of weeks ago, or
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. No report this week, so I don't know if she didn't fish or what.
So on that same tune, in case you guys haven't seen it, Procure is one of our sponsors, and this is a soap that Procure actually sells. Multiple purpose with this soap. If you get the bait scents, they're very oily. If you get it on your shirts, you'll get oil stains. This soap right here will take it out. But besides that, it works for everything. If you have fishy hands, you want to get the fishy smell off your hands, that'll work for that. But it's made for like a little bit of everything, even though it's for fishing. But if you read the back,
blood out of your clothes.
I don't know if it'll do blood, but it's for scents including tobacco, sunblock, grease, oil, gasoline, and fish scents. Removes fish oil and blood.
Okay, because that's the biggest problem. The wife complains. I come home, and especially when you're mackerel fishing or one of those, and you got blood stains spattered all over you.
But there it is, badass hand and lure soap. I don't know why you would wash your lures, but they say you can use it for that too. Yeah. But it says hands, tackle, lather and wipe away. What I found with this will leave a scent on your hands that's like, I don't know, I don't want to say chemical, but it's just a weird, like very faint scent. But what it does is the stuff that you usually can't get off your hands, whether it's a fish smell or whatever, this will get it off. Then you can just wash with regular soap and you're golden. But it works on your clothes. So that would be good.
I think Eddie Caldwell told me that what he does, he has a little pump bottle with hydrogen peroxide.
Right.
When he gets home, his wife sprays his shorts and his T-shirt to get the blood stains out.
Right. Now, I got fish towels sometimes that I put down when I'm cleaning fish or whatever, and you'll get blood on those. And what I found is once I'm done cleaning the fish, I'll dunk it in the salt water and I'll rub the two pieces of towel together just to thin it out. And then I'll make it real wet and I'll throw it in the bucket. It seems like if I keep it wet, once my wife washes it, it helps with those towels. I don't know if that would work on a shirt. I think this soap might.
But I might try that peroxide in a little pump bottle.
Yeah.
One of those little 99-cent dollar store bottles. And because the thing is you take your clothes off and then maybe your wife doesn't wash the shirts for 3 or 4 days and that blood sits on it. So Eddie says as soon as you get home, you should spray it.
What Barbara does for me is a lot of times she'll look at me, like when I come in, she'll look at the shirt to see if there's any on there. And then if there is some, she sprays it with, I don't know if it's OxyClean or Shout. I forget now. She uses one of those products and puts it on there right away. And you got to watch because one of the products, if you put it on there and you let it sit on there for days, it can discolor your shirt.
They'll eat the color.
But she found, I'll have to ask her and tell you on the next show, but she's found something that when she sprays it on there, she could leave it on there for days, and then when she washes,
just told me, Shout.
Did she do it?
She just
Shout. There it is. I see it. It came up now.
I could hear her from the other room. She was shouting.
Right? Yeah, shouting it out. But she uses Shout, and that definitely works. And what's nice is, if I got 3 days of charters, she don't have to wash them right away. She can wait till all 3 days of charters, take all the clothes at one time. And we got Carlos Cizarosa.
That's our winner, our 10,000 subscriber winner. He came over the other day, and in fact, yesterday, and he got his T-shirt. He's got a couple of his naked ball jigs, and he's ready to go.
All right, Carlos, congratulations, buddy.
And thank you, man. And shall we do?
Let's do a report.
Bucky Goldman, let's get Bucky.
Yeah, let's do a report. I know he was out fishing, so.
Good afternoon, Sunday afternoon. It's been raining all morning, so I got out a few times this week. Weather's just been on and off, nice, and then really bad. So today we got a bad day. Been doing a little bass fishing around my ponds. The bass are starting to really get laden with their eggs. I think they should be spawning out in the next few weeks, approaching this next full moon. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do much fishing because on Wednesday I'm going in for shoulder surgery. Got to get it cleaned up. So I want to be out for a couple weeks. Hopefully I have a speedy recovery, do some physical therapy, and try to get back out there as soon as possible. I went out last Tuesday, was scouting around. It was a real nice day, super low tides. Went up into an area, and it's kind of muddy bottom. There's a lot of that slimy, long, green algae, which was really a pain in the butt because it kept getting wrapped around my prop, which reminds me, take your time sometimes and go and shave down the little burrs on your trolling motor prop. You hit stuff and they get grinded up, and those things, little snags, will catch all the weeds that are humanly possible. So it's just a little good maintenance to do. Just keep sanding it, filing it down until it gets to the point you need to get a new one. But there's a bunch of reds. I was throwing some artificials, and me and a buddy, we stuck 4 reds, and then I had to drop them off. Went out and I stuck another nice red, tailing redfish in another area. Then on my charter, got bait pretty easily. One throw, had enough for the day. And I went out the day before, fishing off the causeway, just trying to catch some ladyfish for cut bait. And when I went to the areas where I saw the redfish, they weren't there anymore. Chunked around for quite some time and just couldn't get any luck. Tried a few spots, nothing. Eventually went up into to one of the creeks and got on some nice ladyfish. Caught about a dozen ladyfish. Caught about 4 nice snook. Got 1 nice snook at the boat ramp at the end of the day, and 1 little redfish. But I'm telling you, man, these fish are just been real tricky in my area. So anyways, I hope to get a speedy recovery and be out on the water in 2-3 weeks. So don't know if I'll be throwing a cast net, but as long as I can launch the boat, I don't mind having a boat buy bait or stuff like that. So it's going to be a little mission to get back to 100%. But I'd rather get surgery approaching 44 than doing it when I'm 54. So anyways, tight line. You guys all stay out there, have some fun, and hope for the best. Best fish coming up, because I think the spring there should be quite a lot of fish, and hopefully we get these warmer temperatures, we get some rain, we get some grass growth in the upper bay, and things start turning around for the better. Thank you. Captain Bucky Goldman, Bag and Fishing Charters, Tampa, Florida FishingGuide.com.
All right, Bucky, we wish you a real good recovery from that.
Yeah, Bucky, good luck with that. And when do you go in for that?
I think he said next week.
Is it next week, he said?
I think it's next week, but
yeah,
it's one of those things. It's all about therapy. If you do the therapy like they tell you and you stay on top of it, you'll be good.
If you if you let that arm sit still and don't do the therapy, you're gonna have a worse time. He goes in Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right, man. We wish you luck with that, bud. Hopefully you get a speedy recovery, and don't overdo it. Don't overdo it neither.
And I think tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and text Jane to see about having the kids fishing clinic again in June.
Right.
On Picnic Island. So we need to get that going, because believe it or not, Jesus, you're only talking about 4 months away.
Oh, Bucky says it's not a rotator cuff. He has a bone spur he needs to shave down. Well, that might not be too bad.
Not too bad.
Rotator cuff. My brother had that done, and that's a heck of an operation.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's like your knees. but not,
you're down. You're
that
down
one
for a
there's
little
not
bit.
too bad. You might be sore for a few days,
Yeah, you can
and
just
then
take it
you'll be
easy.
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of weird the lack of fishing pattern that we're seeing is that's the best
Not
way I could just
normal. It's
yeah,
not a normal trend. So
yeah,
that's what, like I said, you know what they're supposed to be doing. If you
right,
go to places they're supposed to be and they're not there, and it's a hit or miss. You go to 3 or 4 and nothing. All of a sudden, you find one that's got some, but not the quantity you used to have. But it seems
right.
to be, like I said, it seems to be more this area. Now, I don't know
Yeah,
Fort DeSoto. They tell me Fort DeSoto, because for a while Fort DeSoto was dead. And then
it
somebody said
was.
it's really picking up again, you know?
Well, I went down there. See, it's kind of weird because we were on, back up like a month and a half ago, and we were on a good bite around here,
We were.
before this real cold stuff happened. And I had ran down to the Fort DeSoto area on one of my trips because the tide was just going to be so bad up in the area I usually fish that I told my client, hey, let's run down to Fort DeSoto. The tide will come in a little bit sooner down there and we'll do good. And I'm glad I did because I talked to one of the captains that fished were in the areas where I fished, and he said it was horrible bait. And then when I started telling him what we caught that day, he said, okay, shut up. I don't want to hear anymore. But it was a good bite down there. But now since this trend happened that we're seeing, I don't know if it's still good down there like that, because the trout bite was really good. And then when the tide came in, we got into reds. We caught about a half a dozen nice size reds. And then when the tide was going out, the snook kicked in and we probably caught, I don't know, 10 snooks. So it was a really good bite. But I talked to somebody that fishes down there, another captain, a couple of days ago, and he said he's kind of getting depressed about the way the fishing's been down there. So I don't know. Could be, area specific like us. Maybe go to exact Fort DeSoto and you do really well. I don't know, but he's not happy about what he's been seeing.
But yet you go around Clearwater North. And
Well, look, we went to the other side of the bay and the trout bite was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was unreal. Everything. And the water was real clean too. So we
Yeah.
can't say, well, the water quality over here was too clean. It was real clean up there where we were.
Well, it was clean, but we're right where we were fishing was a little bit
It
not
wasn't as clean as
what we're seeing now. I mean, it looks like drinking water. It pretty much looks like drinking water.
I mean, if anything, it was a good day to learn new spots.
Well, I tell you what, I did do that. I went around and I wanted to see, I started seeing trout here at this point and they stopped here. So I marked the 2 spots. That way, when the water clouds up, I'm going to get right between those 2. They should be there and they won't be as spooky because I'm telling you, these trout were pushing away from the boat. And then we ended up having to basically stop and just make long casts. But the water was just unbelievably clear.
That's why I think, some people say, well, it's a myth. Some people say it's not a myth.
No.
But boats with a tower, I really think that shadow that the tower casts certain times of the day affects your fishing in the flats. Deep water don't matter. And when the water's not real clean, but when the water's clean, I think that cast, it could be.
Yep. I got my wife chiming in. She says, I think it's because we've had an abnormal winter. The fish are not used to the cold weather sticking around this long. Well, that, and then you've also got the up and down stuff where you're going to 80 degrees for 2 or 3 days, and then it's 20 degrees colder the very next day. That messes up a pattern. The fish don't know what's going on, basically.
If the water temperature drops and the air temperature drops and it stays down,
right,
4 or 5 days, the fish, they get used to that.
Yeah, they acclimate to it. Yeah.
But what's happening is like you say, you get now like tomorrow's like the high tomorrow is going to be 65.
Yeah. And then the
it
next
was
day,
80, it was up in the 80s the other day.
And then the very next day, they're saying early morning could be in the low 40s, possibly, with a wind chill factor.
So you're talking about, going from 80 down to 80 one day and 65 the next day. That's 15 degrees difference during the day.
Right.
And the fish have a hard time adapting. I mean, it's like anything. If it stays in the 60s and 50s, they kind of get used to that.
Right.
But this drastic change, I think, just drives them crazy.
Well, let's run another fishing report.
All right, let's get Tony Franklin.
All right.
All right, this is Captain Tony Franklin back with you again with this week's fishing report. Well, the report this week, we have a lot of different types of weather. We're still in the winter pattern. We've got a lot of different types of weather where it starts to warm up a little bit and then it gets real cold again and it warms up a little bit. And just the pattern keeps going back and forth. And when the situation like that we're in, the fish keep changing their locations and they keep moving around and they bite a little bit different every day. So I'm going to give you a few tips of what I found out that's working this week. We've been fishing the backwater creeks and canals and residential canals, a lot of areas in the backwater. We've been catching sheephead on shrimp. We've been using shrimp mostly during the winter here. Catching some trout, we're catching sheephead, we're catching some small black drum, catching some whiting, been some Jack Crevalle around for action, a few bonnet heads. We're also catching a few small single redfish back up in these creeks. The biggest thing that I found this week is these fish are biting better on moving water. When I'm talking about moving water, it's the incoming tide with a stronger tide flow has been working the best. It hasn't made a whole lot of difference whether it's incoming or outgoing. That's just water movement has been the key. And we've had some very windy weather, so we're trying to fish out of the wind. But the better bite has been on the moving tide. So if you have the time frame to do it, try to time your fishing around the moving, incoming, outgoing water. Not everybody can go ahead and adjust their time schedule for that. So if you can't, go ahead and go out there, but take a note of what's working. Sometimes they do bite on the slack tide. This week has just been totally different, and that's wintertime fishing. It's just totally different from one day to the next. So you got to get out there and put in your time. Try different techniques. Try different spots. Get out there and try different things. Lighter leader, split shot, no split shot. So get out there, try a lot of different things. Get out there, catch some fish. Good luck, tight lines, and I'll definitely see you on the water.
And thank you, Tony. God bless you for that, man. Always has a good fishing report. And yeah, Jessica was saying they won second place in the tournament. That's a kayak tournament, right, Jessica? Because that's what they fish all the time. And was Pam fishing with you in that tournament? I just wondered, But no, again, it's the same thing. Where is the fish in Tampa Bay? It should be a little bit everywhere. And it looks like it's only one here, one dock, that you might go to 10 docks and never see another bait. And it's funny because just 3 weeks ago, there was, I thought, an overabundance of pinfish, too many pinfish. And now there's none but one or two here or there. And what about the whitebait? I mean, I don't expect whitebait to be in the bay right now. It should be at the Skyway. But again, everybody I talk to, they're doing better with cut bait. I've been doing a lot better using my saltwater assassin and the MirrOlures and than live bait. And whitebait, I think too many people have it. They overemphasize the use of whitebait. They think it's the greatest thing in the world. But this time of the year, the fish don't want to move that fast to chase one down. They know they're not supposed to be in the bay. I still think if you want live bait, I think right now it's going to be shrimp. It's going to be the best bait. And if you're looking for sheephead, I think sand fleas and fiddler crabs are probably your first and second choice, and then shrimp the third choice. But whitebait, I don't know. You might catch a few snook with it, but at 60-degree water temperature that we had last week when I was on the water, I don't think the snook were going to be moving at all. They're going to be in those creeks and those rivers, and when it's time to eat, they'll come out and eat, but they're hibernating a lot right now. I can tell you that. Let's see. Jessica says she won I have an 1860 John boat. I believe you could fish anywhere. No, I wasn't with Pam. Okay. Just wondered. Yeah. Sooner or later, I'll tell you what, I'm getting the itch and when I get the itch, I react on it. I think this fall, I'm going to have two boats.
Uh-oh.
And one of them is going to be like a little 18-foot type shallow water, because that way in the winter, I can go back in those backcountry areas that you can't get in with my boat.
Right.
You're going to have that type of boat. And, hey, you get, sometimes you can get some nice fish way back in there.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not going to get in it with the regular boats.
I used to have a kayak for a lot of years, and I ended up selling it. But I'm gonna tell you what, in that kayak, you could just get to so many places, and then when you got to too shallow of a spot, you get out, you pull the damn kayak over the sandbar, and then you're back to fishing again. But sometimes
kayaks isn't my thing.
No, I understand.
I want more room around me.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, with the kayak, I was amazed. Sometimes you would get up on a fish so close before you saw them. Sometimes because you're sitting so low, and I've had where they were
each other.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, no, I'm thinking, like a little 18-foot Hughes or something like that. Some kind of skiff. But it's got to be comfortable. See, that's my problem. I want to do that kind of fishing, but I also don't want to feel where I'm out of balance or I got no room to move.
So you don't want a micro skiff.
That's right. No, that's a little too. Let's see what it says. Manual says the bait goes deep. You have to scratch it on your machine, or mud holes sometimes up in the river.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, but I've got some areas right now that's actually holding bait, and it's only about 10 feet.
You're not doing that good with live bait, are you?
No,
that's I mean.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. And that's even weird too. Like I said, some of the areas I went to just the other day were void of fish, and usually those areas will hold fish. And sometimes you have the other reaction. Sometimes if you bring them the white bait and they haven't seen it for a while, sometimes they go nuts on it. But lately, it's mostly been shrimp for the redfish, and then filler crabs for the sheep's head. And yeah, the two biggest fish we caught recently were both on white bait. One was a really nice big redfish, and the other one was a nice sized snook. But that was only two fish against, I don't know how many trips I ran where everything came on the other bait. Like, I've only caught white bait 3 times in this month, and all 3 times, except for the one trip, it wasn't worth catching.
Oh, well, what I'm saying, George, is, number one is the snook right now, they're very lethargic because of the water temperature. So that white bait running all over in front of him, he's not going to chase it down anyway. He might hit a shrimp if it kind of drifts in front of him and he don't have to move. She doesn't have to move very fast. But other than that, redfish are bottom feeders. And again, even when the water's cold, the fish are very lethargic. They're slower moving. And I think they don't want to chase that white bait down.
Yeah. And definitely with the shrimp, you got the scent, but I've had both. I've had where, like I said, where the water's in the 60s, maybe 65, a little warmer than what we got right now, and had really great days with that white bait. And then if it's not working, you rip the white bait in half and you throw it as a chunk bait, and that, of course, works. But if you're going to do that, you might as well use the shrimp. And just the amount of barren areas that I'm seeing is really strange this year. I don't understand what's happening with that.
And I tell you, since we're talking about different areas, let's get Scotty Rowe on.
All right.
With his report from the Boca Grande, Inglewood area.
Hello, everybody. This is Captain Scotty Rowe from Charlotte Harbor. We've got all kinds of good stuff going on. The bite's been, from one day to the next, really hot or really slow. We were having these little cold fronts coming down every 3 to 4 days. So on some of those days, it slows the bite down. And then when the front's gone, we catch them up. But good stuff. Trout bite has been phenomenal. I'm catching a lot of my trout in 4 to 6 foot of water, believe it or not. And I'm using one of those Assassins, the sea shad, which I love. Probably one of my favorite lures of all times. I've been using them for 30 years. Good stuff there. Snook bite has definitely been a little slow. I'm getting a few every day, but nothing crazy. Redfish bite, definitely seen an uptick in the redfish. redfish bite, I'm still using shrimp or white bait for them, but I'm split shotting it, put it on the bottom. It's definitely making a big difference. And other cool fish, that comes in this time of year, I've been fishing some sheep's head, and I've been doing that in the Placida area, fishing some of the docks in Palm Island and Little Gasparilla. And that's kind of fun. And what I've been using for those, believe it or not, is, everyone wants to use fiddler crabs, and sometimes they're hard to come by. I've been using the frozen sand fleas, so that's been working really well for me. And you'll see in some of the pictures I'm going to send. Another thing that I'm really getting, I can't wait till next month. I've been watching tons of juvenile tarpon rolling around. Of course, the water temp's in the 60s. So they're not ready to play yet, but here in a few weeks, when that water temp, cranks into the 70s, you'll be able to see those little juvenile tarp and we're gonna have fun with them. That's kind of my fishing report for the week. And guys, I'm full up for the week, but I got some days available next week. So if you want to come down to Charlotte Harbor and have some fun, we can definitely do that. www.captainscotty.com. Tight lines, everybody.
Thank you, Scotty.
Nice report, Scotty.
Yeah.
It's funny. The last 3 snook that we've caught, the one real nice one was on a white bait. The other 2 came on the little P&V on a 1/4 ounce jig head.
Huh.
So that's like, and it was like, I casted it. I literally got 2 or 3 jigs into it, and he popped it real quick. And both times it was the same way.
Wow. And Dr. Rodriguez that lives on there in Pine Island, where Scotty fishes.
Right.
He says tons of trout. He said, Sergio, I haven't seen this many trout in years. He just goes out his canal and goes to little flats, and there's tons of speckled trout on there. And his canal that always had nothing but catfish. We've been living there 7, 8 years now.
Right.
He said in the last couple of months, he's pulling out redfish and snook.
Beautiful. God, I love that.
Now, isn't that funny? And he said, Sergio, for years, all it was catfish. If you put a bait down by my dock around my boat, guaranteed catfish. And then about 3 months ago, he saw some people fishing in his canal, and they were catching some snook and reds. And he says, God, now he's catching them out of his backyard.
Right. Oh, that's great, though, for him. I mean, that makes it nice. And so something changed. Either the bait source has actually moved into his canal now. Maybe some grass grew down there on the bottom.
Something.
Yeah, something happens.
And because at the back of his house, it's a canal, but for some reason, right in front of his house, there's like maybe there would have been like 3 lots. Well, it's all mangroves. Apparently, it's like a wetlands. You can't touch it. And then from there, you got more wetlands on the left,
right,
all the way down to the mouth of the canal, and then it turns and goes to another canal. But I
mean,
that's
good that it's like that.
Yeah, it's in Pine Island. It's at Bokeelia, right at the north end of Pine Island. So he's real happy because all the years he's been there, he said, man, if you put a bait on the bottom, it was guaranteed catfish. And now he's been using some saltwater assassin, and he's been getting a few snook and a few redfish. And you still get a few cats. Don't get me wrong, but he's happy that this is happening.
Right. And I'll tell you right now, with the saltwater assassins, most of the colors, except for the electric chicken, that's the only one that's a little bit of an oddball, but that one's always worked. But most of the colors that I'm picking are simulating a shrimp color. You know what I mean? I mean, the brown glass, brown glass minnow, that one's got some little silver glitter in it, but the base color is very similar to a shrimp. And there's a few colors that I'm using, but basically right now they're like 3.5 inches long. They mimic a shrimp, and that's what's working for me if you're going to use a lure.
But you see what you just said, and this is a strength, mimics a shrimp.
Yeah.
So, and they're hitting it.
Yeah, but they're hitting it on the move. And even like I said, I even got 2 snook that way, so they're reaction striking it or whatever. But you know how like when a shrimp's in trouble and it twitches and it does that. So I'm doing a 2 hop. So it's kind of looking like a shrimp.
like a shrimp in trouble, and maybe
Yeah.
that's what's getting them. It could be a reaction strike,
Yeah, exactly.
rather than a hungry strike.
Yes. But other than that, there's plenty of the ladyfish are around like crazy, so that's a good thing because
How about jacks? I haven't seen.
I have
I
not
haven't seen jacks.
in about 3 or 4 weeks now. I haven't seen the jacks. They were
Normally you
showing
see them
up
up and down the canals, man. They
Up-
come in there all over the place.
in the
Big
marinas
ones.
and inside the marinas,
Yeah.
and usually you'll see them like pinning bait, the glass minnows or whatever. You'll see them pin them up against the seawall, and you'll just see all kinds of commotion. I have not seen that in a month. It's like somebody flipped a switch. I don't care. We've had cold weather like this before where, I mean, the water's still 60, 61, 62. I had 63 and a half the other day, but even sitting at 61, 62, that's not abnormal for this time of year to where we would be definitely seeing all kinds of jacks, and something's just weird in our area right now.
I mean, the area where I was fishing at last week, 60 degrees, 60.4. I think about 11:30, I went more into the open part of the bay, got up to a little bit over, but it never hit 61. It was always
Right.
under 60.5, 60.4. You know,
Carlos says El Nino.
I know it's El Nino,
Well, it needs to go away.
but El Nino, was it El Nino that kept the hurricanes away?
I don't know.
It's
I
one
don't
of the
know.
two. When they're around, it helps.
It-
And I think it
yeah.
might have been El Nino that kept the hurricanes
It probably
away from
is.
last year.
It's keeping the fish away too.
Well, yeah, I know.
Uh,
What can I tell you?
but I mean, the fish are out there. We don't want to sound like doom and gloom. It's just that you have to work a little bit.
You have
and
to
there-
work hard for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's other areas that are holding more trout and more, different fish. But like the power plant outlets that used to be like, oh, it'd be gravy, so easy, just go there and kill them. That ain't happening this year.
It's the water temperature, though. You notice
Right.
that when they want gas fired,
Yes,
water temperature doesn't get as hot as it used to.
which is, I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe that kind of turbine doesn't get as
I don't
hot.
know. Remember, you could go in there in the middle of winter when it was 60-degree water temperature. When you got in that canal, like Apollo Beach, it'd be up in the 80s.
Oh
You
yeah.
can see the steam, and that doesn't happen. It's in the
Wow.
70s.
Well, heck, even in like late spring, sometimes you couldn't go up in there because it was too hot and your bait would die.
And it didn't happen last year. So maybe the turbines run different, or they're
gotta
different
be.
turbines.
It's
and
got to
they
be.
don't get the water as hot. I mean, I don't
Now,
know.
did the Apollo Beach one change over to gas also?
Well, you
I-
can see the smokestacks.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they changed.
Somebody said the temperature, but they might have made some changes to affect the temperature of the water.
Yeah, because it's just not like it used to be. That's for sure.
In fact, I'm going to talk to my neighbor. He retired from Tico about a year ago, and he
Right.
might know.
Well,
they're
we got 7 minutes left. So how
Let's
many?
get your fishing report in.
Is mine the last one, or do we have any
No,
other
that's
ones?
it. Yours.
Okay. Hey guys, Captain George Hastic of Fish Hunter Fishing Charters coming to you from St. Petersburg, Florida. Well, yesterday we got out, and I'm going to tell you what, the water clarity is unbelievable right now. This wind we're having today and the storm that came through, it might murk it up a little bit, but I don't think that'll last if the wind comes back down. But I mean, the water clarity, 8-10 feet of water, you're seeing bottom with no problem. In the flats and in the canals, I mean, you can see the bottom easily in most areas. It just depends on what direction that wind is blowing. That being said, it's a good time to get out there and scout. You can really cover a lot of ground, a lot of docks, a lot of flats right now to see where the fish are hanging out. Yesterday, we came across 3 different areas that were holding nice schools of trout. It was good to see. They were all decent size, at 15 to probably 19-inch, maybe 20-inch range. But one area I hit yesterday, there must have been 100 trout just laying up in there. And so it's good to see. Throw yourself a saltwater assassin, little PNV, and the electric chicken, or the brown glass minnow, even the green glass minnow I like also. Those are all working. Another color is the deal. But between those, that should cover you. And then the Miradine and a little scaled sardine, that is working really well also. And then on the docks right now, the sheep's head are still around, and the bridge pylons. Just depends on how windy it is. Wind has been a factor this year, unfortunately, on where you're fishing. But you can go from dock to dock and look for the sheep's head. The water clarity's there, and then just try to stay back a little bit. If you get too close, you're going to spook the fish. And when they're complacent, they'll definitely feed a little better. The shrimp, fiddler crabs, that's what I'm using on the sheep's head that we're seeing. And then the redfish we're getting off the docks right now, they're ranging anywhere from about 16 inches to about 19 inches. And then every once in a while, you're getting one that's in that 21, 22, 23 inch range. And this is off the docks right now. And shrimp has been the ticket for those guys. I haven't had any issues with them taking or not wanting to take a shrimp. I mean, they're if they're there, the only thing I can say is if they're being a little finicky, pinch the tail off, and that scent will get them. But that's been the trick. And shrimp, I had a full live well yesterday with a white bait, pinfish, shrimp. I had filler crabs. I had a little bit of everything. And filler crabs did the job for the sheep's head for me. And the shrimp definitely did the job for the redfish. So, take it for what it's worth right now. There's bait around. If you look, it's in a little bit deeper water. But if we do get a nice warm spell, that would be great because I think they'll move up onto the flats if they haven't already. I really haven't checked. But that bait yesterday did nothing for me. I chummed and nothing. Everything was caught on shrimp and fiddler crabs. So, all right, this has been Captain George Hasek. Have a good day.
All right, George, you did a pretty good job covering that. Now, here's a funny thing, too, you're talking about. I took sand fleas last week.
Yeah.
I didn't want to touch them.
Well,
they weren't even, not one bite. I was excited,
Yeah, I tell you what I think the problem is with that. Because sand fleas, I did the same thing on 2 of my trips. I brought sand fleas because that was the time when everybody ran out of fiddler crabs. And sheep's head do eat sand fleas. The only problem is, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I can't find the sand fleas that are not blanched.
Right.
Okay.
The ones I had were blanched.
Yeah, I think the blanching, and that's what Captain Kenny had that day too, was the blanched ones. I think when they blanch them, I don't think they work as good as just the regular frozen sand fleas. So I might look into that.
Maybe I'll just go catch my own.
Yeah, and right now
but there's none around right now. It's
the fiddler crabs are back in business, so you can buy fiddler crabs again right now.
Okay.
That warm up we had for those 3 or 4 days, they were able to get on them again.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Because I've got the little thing I got it from Lee Fisher to get the sand fleas, and I was thinking of freezing them, but you know what? I'm thinking about dropping a couple of drops of that ProCure in the bag and put like a dozen in a bag, and freeze them, and put a couple of drops of ProCure in there when I freeze them.
Just make sure you use like a vacuum sealer.
I got the vacuum machine.
Yeah, if you use the vacuum sealer, that'll keep them good. I would do one with and one without.
And
that way you can try both ways. Yeah. But I think the blanching takes all the. I don't know. I think it cooks something out of it, and plus, I think they don't look right. They're not supposed to be that color.
Well, but the blanching, I guess, makes them tougher.
It does. But
wonder what happens if you brine them.
See, that would probably be better, because I've seen big bags of the sand fleas online that are not blanched. They might be brine, but they're the natural. They're kind of a darker gray color from being in the bag. And I think that would be better. And I'll tell you what, though, the weirdest thing was those blanched ones. Tell me they didn't smell exactly like you were eating some blue crabs.
I mean, I really wasn't smelling them.
You couldn't help but smell them. Even my clients made a comment about that. But it didn't. They would come up to it, but they weren't really eating them.
I don't think I had a nibble on one of them.
Yeah,
we tried that, and like I said, we got most of them on shrimp, live shrimp.
People have had good success with them, and I just haven't used them that much because I really haven't had an issue. But this year, when the fiddler crabs were gone, I was like, oh, let me buy some of these sand fleas. And then, unfortunately, all they had was the cooked ones, and I was like, well, beggars can't be choosers. And then the other thing is just, I don't know. I just think if it was more natural looking, it might work
probably
better.
smell better because I think once you blanch them, you get rid of some of the scent too.
Yeah,
that comes with it.
they smell. Well, they definitely. I'm telling you, they smelled like blue crab. They really did. It's pretty strong too.
And it looks like we're out of time again, man.
Oh, look at that.
And you know, we haven't said anything, but thank you, everybody. And make sure you keep spreading the word about our show here and our Fishing Adventures Florida on all the streaming channels and YouTube. And I tell you what, we might get lucky and by next Monday be at 11,000 subscribers.
Yeah, we're close. We're close.
So we thank the good Lord, but we thank all our viewers. They're the ones who's passing the word on, telling everybody about the shows. And again, may God bless you.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Have a good night.